Hello, guys, gals, non-binary pals, and waterfowls. It's me, Big Mike, and I'm coming at you today with kind of a Big Mike story time, kind of some Big Mike life advice. Today, I kind of want to talk about something kind of personal to me and something that it means kind of a lot to me. But before we get into that, I just want to apologize ahead of time. Unfortunately, I have a bad case of sinusitis. And so if my voice sounds a little weird, I sound a little nasally, that's probably why. And please forgive me for that. Now, today I want to talk to you about public speaking. Now, public speaking is something I really enjoy doing, actually. It's not something I get a chance to do very often anymore, being that I live in a country where English isn't the native language. And I'm not fluent in the local language. So whenever I get the opportunity to do such, I love to do it. And this week, I've been invited to speak at a commencement ceremony. I just want to point out that when I was in university, I took a public speaking course. I didn't major in it, but the university I attended set it as an elective, set it as a mandatory course for your general ed requirements. And so I had to take it. And honestly, it was one of the best things to ever happen to me. Because little did I know that in that same semester that I took public speaking, I would have been asked to give the Thanksgiving speech the day before we left to go on Thanksgiving holiday at my university. So taking that course really helped me out a lot. And later on in my junior and senior year in university, I got heavily involved with the Student Government Association. I would have to give speeches and presentations at meetings. And also, I was the founding vice president of my university's chapter of Sigma Alpha Pi, the National Society of Leadership and Success. Oftentimes, I would have to give speeches, motivational speeches as well, before an audience. So public speaking really paid off for me. That class really helped me out a great deal, even though I didn't realize just how important it would be at the time. My professor in that public speaking class, he made some really great points. He said, public speaking is a fundamental skill for everyone to have. And it has a great deal of use for everyone. We are all humans, we're social creatures. We have social lives. Some of us are religious. We may be called upon at certain points in our lives to give sermons, homilies, dresses, khutbahs, etc. Or, even if you're not religious, maybe you'll be asked to give a speech at your best friend's wedding, for example. You may also find yourself in a rather unfortunate situation in which you lose somebody close to you, and you may be asked to give a eulogy at their funeral. And in both of those cases, public speaking can help you. In your professional life, maybe you'll find yourself in a situation where you have to hold meetings, or you have to make presentations, or you might have to present your research to colleagues in your field of study. And all of these situations, and probably many more, you will find yourself in need of public speaking skills. In addition, sometimes life can throw you a curveball. Maybe you might find yourself supporting a political cause. And such a situation may lead you to have to speak before city council, your state legislator, or maybe even the national legislator. So it's always good to be prepared. And there's one point I never get tired of making, is that you never know where life is going to take you. Like if you would have came up to Michael back in high school and you said, Michael, and when you're 26, you would leave and you would live on the opposite side of the planet, I would have looked at you like you were crazy. But here I am, fam. So you never know where life is going to take you, and you never know when these skills are going to come in handy. And I think this is even more true for us content creators. We need to have good public speaking skills. We never know just how high our career will reach, how many people we will reach out to, and maybe what situations we may find ourselves in. So I want to talk about some ways in which we can improve our public speaking. First and foremost, I just want to point out the fact that public speaking is a skill that anybody can develop, but it must be developed. So don't expect to go into it your first time thinking you're going to be the next great orator, because it doesn't usually happen like that. Over the course of my course in public speaking, I had to give between 7 to 10 speeches It's been quite a while ago, so my memory's a bit rusty, but somewhere in that ballpark. Now, my first speech was nowhere near as good as my last speech. Not just in regards to my techniques, but also my confidence as well. So naturally, the first tip I'm going to give you is to practice. Practice, practice, practice. We say practice makes perfect, and that's true. The more you practice, the better you're going to get. Not only will you become more refined, but you're going to become more confident as well. Another very big tip I like to give is that once you have a topic and you know you're going to give a speech, make an outline. Use note cards or even a sheet of paper. Make it so you can glance at it and you can have a major idea of each of your points and your supporting points. Now, I just want to point out here, it's okay to glance at it while speaking, but don't read from it the whole time. Unfortunately, if you read from it the whole time, you're going to be looking down, it's going to affect your projection, and it's just kind of annoying. You're going to lose your connection with your audience. Imagine you're at a cafe talking with one of your friends, and the whole time your friend is down looking at their phone while they're talking to you. Their voice doesn't sound so good, and you feel like they're not interested in you. You're going to get annoyed really fast at that, and your audience is going to be the same. So it's okay to make an outline, it's okay to even glance at it, but don't read from it the whole time, and certainly don't try to write out your speech word for word. Another big tip I want to bring up is to avoid non-words or filler words, such as stuff like that. These are sounds or meaningless sounds, or even words that are actual words but are used to fill in empty pauses. And I struggle with that a bit myself. But the more we practice, the less that will occur. And our next tip will really actually help us with this as well. Now, I want to preface this by saying I know this one is going to sound quite silly, but this is a technique my professor taught me when I was in university. And I also want to preface this by saying you want to be sure you let whoever you live with, maybe your significant other, your family, your roommate, your friends, whoever, that you're going to be doing this. Otherwise, they might walk in on you, and it's going to seem a little awkward. But practice speaking by talking to yourself in front of a mirror. And this is good for several reasons. This will help you to memorize your speech. It'll also help you to build up your confidence. And it'll also help to cut back on your non-words or your filler words as well. But again, you want to make sure you let whoever you live with know about this. Because I unfortunately used this technique a lot when I was in university. And once my roommate walked in on me talking to myself, and he was like, "Damn, Michael, you lost your mind?" So be sure you let whoever you live with know that you're going to be doing this. Next, it's kind of a 2-for-1. This next one's a bit of a 2-for-1. Be familiar with both the subject and the audience you're speaking to. You want to try to be as intimately familiar with the subject as possible, or at least as you're expected to be. Like, for example, I hate math. Math is my mortal enemy. Me and math, we don't get along. We're like oil and water. Or I should say algebra. Me and algebra, we don't get along. We're like oil and water. So I would never in a million years give a speech on quadratic equations. That's just not going to happen, fam. Maybe I'll talk about computers, IT, religion, anthropology, philosophy, history, things I know a bit about, but definitely not math. Or algebra, I should say. Also, it's very important that you're intimately familiar with the audience you're speaking to. Now, I don't mean you know them on a first-name basis, but I mean you should be familiar with what they're going to expect, their level of knowledge about the subject. Now, sometimes you're going to be giving speeches, or you may be giving speeches to people who know nothing about a subject, and sometimes you may be talking before an audience who are experts in their field. So you need to be mindful of that. One big piece of advice here is try to avoid jargon or technical words when you're speaking before an audience that's not familiar with the subject. Now, if you're speaking to an audience of experts in the field or professionals who work in the field, it's probably okay to do that. But if you want to use technical terms when you're speaking to a general audience, if they're a very important term you feel they need to know, be sure you explain the meaning of that word. Like, for example, if I'm talking to an audience that has very little knowledge of computers and I talk about RAM, I will explain to them a RAM is random access memory, and I'll explain to them what it does and such. So just kind of be mindful of your audience. And the last point I want to try to bring up a last tip I want to impart here is try to hook them within the first 60 seconds. You want to try to suck them in. You want to try to hook them. You want to try to get them engaged with what you're talking about. Studies show that if we can't get them in that first 30 seconds, then we're probably not going to get them, unfortunately. And depending on the situation you're in, you may want to try to use humor. Humor can be quite effective depending on the topic, the context, and the situation. Well, okay, I kind of lied. That's not the last point. But the real last point here is, and it's not essential, but I find that it helps. Try to be well read, and many different subjects. So try to watch videos if reading isn't your thing on many different topics. Familiarize yourself with the news. When you have to give a speech or you have to prepare your speech, these things can help. It helps to have a vast amount of knowledge to draw upon. Now, it's not absolutely necessary for that to happen. It's not absolutely necessary for you to have that to give an effective speech, but it certainly does help. So this has kind of been a different type of video than I usually make. But it's something I feel kind of passionate about, and I'm hoping that the things I've talked about here today can help you if you ever find yourself in a situation where you need to give a public talk. So with that out of the way, I'm going to go end the video here, and I'm going to go work on my speech now. So special thanks to Fran, who does a wonderful job doing my art. A special thanks to all my friends on Twitter. I wouldn't be here without you all. And most importantly, a special thank you to all of you for watching. Please like this video if you liked it. Dislike it if you dislike it. Feel free to comment below and let me know what you think. If you like my content, please subscribe and turn your notifications on. Until next time, fam, remember, just be yourself and you will be awesome. Peace out!